So, I just wanted to share this horrifyingly crazy realization that was brought to light by um, a recently passed psychologist, Dallas Willard. And in his book, The Spirit of the Disciplines, he writes, "The resurrection was a cosmic event only because it validated the reality and the indestructibility of what Jesus had preached and exemplified before his death. The enduring reality and openness of God's kingdom. It meant that the kingdom, with the communal form his disciples had come to know and hope in, would go on. The gate of the grave would not prevail against it, as Matthew 16:18 states. That and the fact that Jesus was not dead after all, and that when we die, we won't stay dead, is what made the resurrection earth-shaking, transforming good news." So essentially, what this is saying is that too often, and what he says actually in other parts of this chapter, the third chapter of the book, if you're interested, um, what this tells us is that too often Christians have focused on the resurrection being the apex of Jesus's career, per se, saying that this is what Jesus lived for. He lived to die. And it makes sense that we would think that way. There are songs that say, he lived to die. And it's a beautiful message in a lot of senses because the gift of his death, to suggest that he was without blame and without sin and to focus on that, it makes a lot of sense to say that this is everything that there is to Jesus. However, what Dallas Willard points out is that we focus so much on that we fail to see that Jesus was saving people long before he died for our sins. Because the fact of the matter is that he lived for our sins as well. He spent his entire life going around and trying to teach people how to follow him and how to walk the path. Because so much in the Old Testament we had been focusing on, oh, how do we follow Jesus, and how do we follow God rather, and how can we walk this path? What would that look like? So Jesus came and acted as an example for everyone. And he came here and he taught everyone what it was like to walk in practicality for God's sake. And so just this emphasis on death and resurrection being the entire purpose of Christianity, um, Dallas Willard also says that it causes us Christians to kind of lose track of how to actually walk as Jesus walked. Because when we say, oh, Jesus, or how do we follow God, we can't just go around dying for other people's sins. And so what we're actually led to do by this new idea that Dallas Willard has proposed, and maybe not new to other people, but very new to me, um, what we should be doing is living as Jesus did, and not in just this hypothetical fashion that we say there's some arbitrary line that we have to cross or surpass in order to, be at a level that is equal to that of Jesus, but rather that to walk actually as Jesus walked, to do as he did, and not see it as some impossible standard that we can never achieve, but to see it as a possible standard that we can achieve because Jesus was just as human as we are. And so I'm still trying to figure out all that there is to, um, I guess, what Dallas Willard has to say about this, as well as what the truth might be. However, I can't agree more with the idea that we are focusing too much on the resurrection as what Jesus did, because Jesus did a lot more than just die. And this is actually something that I struggled with, but I didn't know the answer to when I was younger, is because I thought to myself, martyrs died. There are plenty of Christians who died for their beliefs and sacrificed their life, and so wouldn't that make them pretty close to Jesus? And I thought to myself, I'm pretty okay with dying for other people. I mean, mathematically it makes sense, right? If you have to choose one person dying versus a billion people dying, I would rather be the person to die for a billion people that might hate me. So it was inconsistent in that regard. And so in really thinking about what Dallas Willard had to say about this, I can't argue against this being a truth. So if you have anything to suggest otherwise, I would love to hear it, because this is a very new and refreshing idea and theme that Dallas Willard is presenting in his book, and I feel like it should have been glaringly obvious, but I missed it until today. So just thought I'd share that with you.